Save hundreds or thousands on energy costs with solar? So easy a caveman can do it?
Even you, caveman, Homer?
For a homeowner, yes, these can be true. But what goes into getting a project done, and why does it take months to complete and activate? That's what I'll be answering in today's video. Hi, I'm Tom with Premier Roof Solar. I've been helping homeowners save money on their power bills for the last 5 years with renewable energy. My goal is to educate and empower homeowners like you so that you can make the best decision for your unique situation. Today we're talking about what it takes to get solar installed on your property and then activated. That way you know what to expect. If you get nothing else out of this, just know that solar is a construction project, and as with any other construction project, there are multiple parties involved and each one can have delays which the other parties have no control over. And just like other construction projects, there can be unexpected circumstances that require adjustments to the scope of work for the project. If you've looked at or are looking into solar, then chances are that you've met with a door-to-door seller, set an appointment at a big box store, or gotten a quote online. The initial quote or proposal process and then signing is step 1. Immediately after signing, there may be some verification process as well. Step 2, scheduling and completing what we in the industry call a site survey, a site evaluation, or a site inspection. It's not always necessary for you to be present at the site survey, though if there are locked gates or pets in the backyard, then those need to be addressed before the site tech arrives. While satellite imagery can be used to generate a design and proposal, it does not suffice to know the condition of your roof and electrical. Sometimes the estimated dimensions from the satellite imagery can be inaccurate due to the pitch of the roof. There can be other electrical work or additional decking needed or even trenching, among other things. With the site survey, the site tech will take photos and exact measurements of everything. This way the construction and engineering teams can assess what the full scope of the project will entail. No one likes surprises halfway through a project, so mitigating that is the main purpose of the site survey. Needing a new roof or a breaker box will change the cost of the project, so you as a homeowner need to know if either of these are required before scheduling the installation. These two are the most common things that come up with a solar project, but it's not limited to just those. You may need other electrical work, additional decking, or even trenching, among other things. Even with a site survey done, sometimes on rare occasions, there can be additional things that arise that are not possible to be seen until the project's already underway. But a site survey does typically find anything major. Aside from trying to uncover as much scope of work as possible, the other important piece of a site survey is making sure that the proposed design will fit within what's called the fire setback. This is the spacing designated by the fire department in order for your roof to be accessible to them in case of an emergency. From when you sign to when your site survey is done, it's typically 1 to 2 weeks. Step 3, final design. This is when the construction and engineering team will review all of the information from the site survey and determine if there's any additional scope of work necessary. This is also when they finalize the design of your solar array and have an even more accurate reading of your annual production to still have the exact pitch of your roof and have an accurate reading of any shading factors. This step typically starts 3 to 4 days after the site survey and can take 1 to 2 weeks to complete. Once you approve the finalized design and scope of work, the next step begins. Step 4, permitting. Again, this step doesn't begin, or in other words, permits are not requested until you give your approval to proceed. The permitting process can vary widely depending on your authority having jurisdiction, aka the AHJ, otherwise known as the City or County Permitting Office. Here in Southern California, it typically takes 6 to 8 weeks to get the permits. Also be aware that in the last quarter of the year, they tend to have a large backlog due to an influx of projects from a ton of homeowners wanting their solar projects done for that tax season. Ultimately, the timeline is completely beholden to your local permitting office. One last thing to note, if your main service panel or your breaker box need to be upgraded, then your local utility will need to send someone out to do what's called a meter spot. This can also add additional time. Up until now, steps 1 through 4 can have a total combined time of up to 12 to 13 weeks without having any unexpected delays. Step 5. Scheduling the installation. This will happen a few days to a week after all the permits are issued. If there's additional work needed or additional permits needed, those may begin while you're still waiting for the solar permits. Some installers may have the equipment delivered to your property ahead of the installation, so make sure you ask about that when you're scheduling the installation. That way you can coordinate if it's needed. Step 6, installation day. We're almost there. The installation itself typically takes like 1 day. For larger projects or projects that got started in the afternoon, it could take 2 days. It's recommended for you to be there on the installation day to go through any finalized details with the installation crew. If there's a breaker box upgrade or a battery being installed, be aware that the power will be shut off temporarily. But if you have neither of those, they typically don't have to turn off the power for the solar installation itself. Step 7, More waiting. After installation, the AHJ will need to do their inspection. Sometimes there are multiple inspections depending on the full scope of work. This timeline again is completely up to the AHJ. Many times they won't even communicate when the inspection is to be done until 1 or 2 days prior to them coming out. The waiting period for this can be 4 to 6 weeks. Once it passes the inspection, then they send all their paperwork to your local utility for final processing and approval. This timeline is completely up to your local utility and how many projects are ahead of yours. In some cases, they'll need to install a new meter to read how much power you're sending back to the grid. This normally can take another 4 to 6 weeks after the inspection passed. The total time from steps 1 through 8 to have all of this done can be up to 25 weeks or 6 months. More often than not though, it takes 3 to 4 months to complete the whole project and get it activated. If you've had the bad luck to have the longer timeline every single step along the way, then it could be 6 months without actually experiencing any delays that are out of the ordinary. Bonus step. Once you have PTO, you can expect to close out your next billing cycle without seeing any changes to your bill, meaning that many times you won't see any changes until the second bill cycle after the solar's been activated. To see how to read your post-solar utility bill with LADWP or SoCal Edison, check the description below or watch this video next.